I've made the claim that this course was designed to make you more efficient in your work. And one of the best ways that I can help you become more efficient is by setting aside time to go over some Excel shortcuts. Accountants will often quip that the more you can keep your hands on the keyboard and off the mouse, the better. And shortcuts are the key to doing that. Beyond those, I also want to expose you to other things that I refer to as quality of life improvements. You might be familiar already with some of these tricks, but if not, you will certainly appreciate learning them. The first set of shortcuts that I expect all my students to know are those that are common to basically all Microsoft Office products. I anticipate you know most of these already, and I don't want to spend too much time here, but if any of these are unfamiliar to you, now is the time to learn them. If I say Control Z in the future, I expect you to know that I'm telling you to undo your last action. If I ever catch you using your mouse to cut cell values in Excel, I'll probably go into cardiac arrest, so for my sake, take some time to learn and practice these if any are unfamiliar to you. Let's proceed to navigational shortcuts. These are really important to be able to efficiently move around in your workbook. Instead of just talking about these, let's actually do some demos in Excel. When you want to move quickly around your worksheet, it is helpful to hold down Control while using the arrow keys. This will move you to the edge of the current data region in a worksheet, and if you're already at an edge, it will move you all the way to the next non-empty cell. To extend a selection of cells, you hold down the Shift key. You can move one arrow key press at a time, but if you want to quickly snag all of the data in a table, you will want to also hold down the Control key, and together, Control, Shift, and an arrow key will extend selections to the last used cell in a continuous range, as shown. I encourage you to open up Excel, create a quick table of data, and practice this. Two other navigational shortcuts to know. If you're somewhere deep in a given worksheet and you want to quickly get to the top, Control plus the Home key will take you to cell A1. These are your ruby slippers if you're familiar with The Wizard of Oz. Just remember, there's no place like Control Home, and it will get you back up to the top. And if you want to quickly toggle across various worksheets, you can use Control and then either the Page Up or Page Down keys. If you look down at the different worksheets I've got here, you'll notice that I can move quickly across these sheets with Control Page Up and Page Down. The last group of shortcuts I want you to learn don't really have a cohesive category, so I've labeled them as miscellaneous. First, let's go over two uses of the Tab key. Normally, after typing a value in Excel, you hit Enter and it takes you down one cell. Instead, you can hit the Tab key after inputting data, and it will send you to the right of that active cell. This can be helpful if you're intentionally trying to input data across multiple columns before proceeding to the next row. You can also use Tab to select a suggested function when entering a formula. Say I want to do a VLOOKUP. Instead of typing all of that in, I can start the formula with just V and L, and the only function that remains is VLOOKUP. By hitting Tab, it selects this function, and I can start to input parameters. I know we haven't yet covered lookup functions in this class, but I'm confident you've seen them in Management 2400. So let's finish this VLOOKUP to practice our referencing skills. First, I need to specify a lookup value. If I intend to copy this formula down, I need to at least anchor the row of this lookup value, and I can use F4 to continuously cycle through different referencing options. I can either make an absolute reference here with both $signs, or I can just anchor the row here. Then I select the table array. I'll hit F4 once here because I want an absolute reference to the table. For the first name, I'll want it to return column 2, and I'll select false. To copy the formula we just created, I hit Control C. But instead of using Control V to paste, I also like to just select a region and hit Enter, and it will do that same task. Of course, I need to update the column index numbers. And now we've got a table that will continuously update as I input different customer IDs. The last miscellaneous shortcut I want to teach you is the AutoSum function. Here we have a table of different customers and the balances that are due. If I wanted to add up all those numbers, I could type out this entire formula equals sum, open parenthesis, and select the range, but that takes too much time, right? I'll hit escape to cancel that entry. Instead, I'm going to use Alt equals to invoke the AutoSum function. When you type Alt equals, Excel knows to grab the close continuous range of numeric values and already set up a sum function to add them up. The rest of this video will now deal with quality of life improvements. They're not shortcuts per se, but they are still things you should be familiar with when working in Excel. The first of these is the fill handle. You'll notice that at the bottom right corner of your active cell, there's a little box. This is the fill handle. You can use it by clicking the box and then dragging it across adjacent cells, or by double-clicking it, and then it'll perform its work down a column of data. To make it easy for users to know if they're ready to select the fill handle, Excel will change your mouse cursor from a fat white cross to a skinny black one. And what can we actually do with the fill handle? I would summarize its capabilities into two main categories: making it easy to copy things, copy values of cells, copy formulas. It will even copy the formatting of a cell you're dragging. The fill handle can also be used to create a series, either of numbers, text, or date-time values based on a pattern you prompt it with. Let's see the fill handle in action. Again, to use the fill handle, you need to select the bottom right box of the active cell. We can copy formatting. We've got a cell with a border here, so I'll copy that across. We can copy text, and we can copy formulas. Let's say I want to add 1 to the cell to the left of the active cell. This is a formula, and I copy it with the fill handle. The fill handle is also smart enough to know various time units, like days of the week, different hours. That was a pretty quick way of making a weekly schedule. The fill handle is also smart enough to recognize different fiscal quarters and months of the year. You can see that after Q4, it started over at Q1 again. We can also create a numeric series, but we need to be careful with how we prompt the pattern it should be anticipating. For example, if I just pull down the fill handle on this number 1, we're just copying ones. But if I give the second column a 2, the fill handle will now recognize I want to create a sequential list. You can try other types of patterns too. If I want to do odd numbers, I can give it a few inputs here, and it recognizes the pattern. The last thing we'll talk about is different view options in Excel. One of the nice things about this software is you've got lots of space to do your work. Each worksheet can have 1,000,000 rows of data and thousands of columns, and you might be working with many sheets at a time. Sometimes you can get lost as you try to navigate within a worksheet or across worksheets, so being familiar with different view options can be helpful. Say you've got a table of data and you want to be able to retain the headers at the top. You can go up to Freeze Panes and freeze the top row, so now as you scroll, you can keep seeing those headers. Sometimes you'll construct a formula that references cells on a different sheet. To avoid the headache that comes from trying to toggle between different sheets in one window, you can just click New Window, and then in 2 separate windows, you can view the same singular instance of Excel. If I type on the 1, enter some values, they show up in the other side. But let's do another lookup function that references cells on a different sheet. I type equals VL tab. I've got a lookup value here, but the table I want to reference is on a different sheet. But I can just come over here and reference that table and proceed as usual. In this video, I've provided you with several shortcuts and quality of life improvements in Excel. For each group of shortcuts, you need to master these. If I tell you the keyboard strokes, you should know what that does. If I tell you a task that needs to be done, you ought to be able to tell me what keyboard strokes are needed to perform that task. We also talked about the fill handle and its various uses, as well as different view options. And yes, you need to know these for the reading quiz, and they are subject to appear on an exam, but these points are unimportant compared to the efficiency gains you will have in your work if you can implement these effectively. And overall, while learning the specific things I've shown you is a good first step, the big picture takeaway is that you should always be on the lookout for ways to make your life better when you engage in mundane, routine tasks. We'll keep picking up tricks like these as the course progresses.